lords and ladies. Today we're going to talk about the foundations of Rome. We're looking at the time period still in BC, about 753 up to about 149 BC, so about a 600-year period. And we're just going to kind of lay the groundwork for what will become that famous civilization of Rome. Today we're going to be looking at the effects of geography on the rise of the Roman Empire. We're going to evaluate the impact you have these things written down, so you'll notice I'm going to go a little faster because you'll just be kind of listening along and thinking of questions you want to ask. If there are any, definitely write them down, on the back side of your notes, on the bottom, or on a separate sheet of paper even. But we're going to look at why Rome is going to develop. Geography, we always start there. We talk about what the lay of the land is. If you want to think like a historian, you want to talk about these things and think about these things. Historians have to look at the environment first and see what factors are going to play a role there, and then, that's when you move on to other ideas. Geography for Italy, when you're looking at, because today Rome is in present-day Italy, though it wasn't known as that in this time. It was actually called the Roma, right? That's what you would hear them call their city. It was on a peninsula in the middle of the Mediterranean. Okay, so again, Greece, wow. Rome is on a peninsula in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. You can see it looks like a boot. Anytime you're looking at a map of Europe and you want to orient it, meaning you want to point it the right way, make sure the boot is pointing at you. Alright, it's a nice little trick. Being in the middle of the Mediterranean, remember what the known world is like at that point in time. It's all around Europe, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and then into Asia. So being on the Mediterranean is a centralized location that allows them a lot of contact with other cultures, if they want it, and allows them to trade pretty freely in the region. In terms of its physical geography, beyond the fact that it's a peninsula, again meaning that it's surrounded by water on all three sides, Italy has the Alps in the north, and what's nice about these mountains, unlike the Himalayas, is that they do provide protection, but they don't completely isolate because there are passes through the mountains that will allow some cultural diffusion. So, it's difficult for militaries to get through, but it does allow for some cultural diffusion. The sea that it's on, again, provides transportation and protection to an extent because people viewed water as a barrier rather than a connector at this point in history. So that's something important to realize. The Atlantic Ocean is a barrier for much of its history, and then eventually it does become looked at as a connector. That's same thing with the Pacific. The rich soil in the region, and it has, the rich soil again is going to allow them to farm, provide enough farmland, provide enough food to support a very thriving population. It's got a mild climate. If you've heard of the Mediterranean climate, it's mild most of the year. So other than being in the north, you're going to have pretty calm and mild temperatures throughout the year, which makes it a very attractive place to live. So geography are going to be helpful. Now, you've probably heard about the founding of Rome. You've heard the myth around it. So the idea is that Romulus is the brother that is victorious, and in 753 BC, his city is named after him. Prosperous civilization. Now, they start to meld with the Etruscans, who, in the time frame of 600 BC, started to have contact. They were northern Italians, and they had had a lot of contact with the Greeks, and so they were heavily influenced by them. Because of the Etruscans, Rome is going to get some city walls that help protect, and again, a concept from the Greek polis. Sewer systems. The arch is going to be used in a lot of their architecture, and that will eventually influence Rome's development in terms of the aqueducts and, how they build their buildings. But the arch is an exceptionally strong structure. So anything built in that way can withstand a lot of weight. They get the Greek alphabet and the number system from this influence with the Etruscans. The Roman Republic, this is the government that they kind of get from Greece. They base it on what the Greeks had, but they modify it to the level that we're going to see it influence our society. It's a republic, meaning they elect people to govern the country, very similar to what the United States does, rather than a direct to get more rights. The next real breakthrough for the plebeians is in the law of the 12 tables, and this is about 450 BC when the plebeians make the patricians write down all the laws. They're frustrated because rich people would get away with things that plebeians would be punished for. And so they said, we want a standard uniform code of law, that it's written down and that all people are subject to it. And this is great because what they do is they inscribe these laws on 12 tablets, which is why it's called the 12 tables, and they set them up in the forum or the marketplace, kind of like the agora that we talk about in ancient Greece. The plebeians protested that citizens didn't know what the laws were. They were upset that they weren't written down, And it's the first time that plebeians can appeal a judgment that a patrician judge gives them. So this is not a small thing. This is a big deal. So the laws are displayed in the forum, again the marketplace, on 12 bronze tablets. These things allow the plebeians to make sure that the patricians are treating them fairly. Okay, so that is the significance initially of it. Now, the larger significance those laws of the 12 tables. So, the way this government is set up. In a republic, as we're going to see in Rome, the people elect officials. The officials then make the laws. So you have three parts to this government. You have the Senate, okay, it's the most powerful, and at first, as we said, it was patricians and not plebeians, but that's going to change. Popular assembly is something where all citizens can go and vote for simple things, okay, and then you have the magistrates. These today we would call them like judges, okay. Magistrates put the laws into practice. They govern in the name of the Senate and the people, and they sometimes even act as priests. So there is not a clear separation between church and state there, but the idea that you have that separation of government and laws is important. There are consuls, 2 of them. They're the chief executives of the government, and they command the army. So this is the basic structure. There is a system of checks and balances, and the idea is that you keep power divided among the 3 in a fair way so that not one branch gets